Tantalus Entertainment presents the Killer Score Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Killer Score. Once again, I am Dalton Morrison, your host here.
Richard Eckert here, co-host, audio engineer, and part-time voice actor, and full-time pain in the butt.
Aaron Murray here, also a co-host and small-time business owner.
Yep, and like usual, if you want to find any of our stuff, to keep these podcast things down low, we'll try to post things in the description. We will try to remind you of stuff periodically, though. But today, I'm going to hand the reins over for a bit to Rich, because Rich is the one introducing us to the film today, which neither Aaron or I have seen.
Right, so, in the last couple of episodes, we were covering what we consider to be quintessential summer movies, or at least movies that had summer as part of the setting or theme. The time has long since passed since the end of summer, but due to scheduling conflicts and other stuff that's coming up on our end, for which I am very excited, I have convinced my co-host to put this movie back up on the schedule as a sort of grand finale, because one, it's a really fun movie from my childhood and one that I appreciated when I rewatched it as a teenager, and also because even in the middle of September it still feels like a day you could take to the shore if you don't mind a mild breeze.
Well, I mean, fall has technically just started. Summer
It started on like Monday.
Summer didn't end a long time ago. We're just getting into the very beginning of fall still.
True, but you can't say that things haven't been troublingly hot.
Yeah.
I mean, the weather's been okay.
Yeah, it's cooled down, but weather's not what our people are interested in, I imagine. So let's why don't you tell us a bit more about what you got for us today?
Of course. This is a 1985 science fiction film that, despite having a considerable legacy behind it, has fallen by the wayside just due to all sorts of unfortunate circumstances. This is, of course, Joe Dante's Explorers. Yeah,
well, wasn't one of the I think one of the reasons this might have become somewhat obscure is, wasn't this I think you may have mentioned before, wasn't it made for television?
No, it was not.
Oh, wow.
It did have a theatrical release, but it bombed, and I do mean bombed, making only $9.9 million against a $20 million budget.
Yeah.
You see, as great as the production elements were of this movie, having director Joe Dante on board, and also being the theatrical debut of both Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix, it faced a lot of difficulties in getting an audience just due to timing. For you see, you may have heard of another movie that came out around that time by a director named Robert Zemeckis, known as Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And that being the monster hit that it was, took away from the box office records considerably for Explorers. That I understand. Less understandable as how Live Aid, of all things, ended up taking away from that movie considerably.
Well, I mean, people were probably staying home to watch the Live Aid broadcasts, I imagine,
Yeah.
True.
Because I believe that Live Aid was broadcast on televisions. I don't know. I don't think it had, theatrical, showings. I mean, it might have, but after the fact, I'm not sure, though.
Oh, yeah, it probably was a limited broadcast. But, goes to show what I know about schedules.
Yeah.
Still, that and Back to the Future were both big draws at the time and took away from Explorers considerably. And that is a shame because while I will be one to admit that this movie's second half does sort of drag a bit and go into some tedious directions at points, it is a fun movie, and I think it deserves some attention for its special effects, its acting, especially from the two that I mentioned, Ethan Hawke and River Phoenix, and for the music by legendary film composer Jerry Goldsmith.
Oh, of Star Trek fame?
Yes, he was also known for doing 3 of the Rambo movies.
Oh.
He's done music for Chinatown, Logan's Run, Planet of the Apes, Patton, Poltergeist, Gremlins.
Oh, yeah, because I was about to say, I'm pretty sure Goldsmith had worked with Dante before, and I know that what a lot of people know Goldsmith for was, didn't he do the Wrath of Khan score?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, because I could have sworn I heard someone mention this film before, because mostly from the score due to the fact that I think I heard that there might have been some unused Star Trek pieces used for the film.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is also responsible for the iconic opening fanfare of Universal Pictures.
Oh, he's that old?
Yes. Of the new rearrangement, at least.
Okay, I was like, he's like 100 years old?
Yeah, right.
But that fanfare,
Yeah. Yeah.
That started in 1997 with the release of The Lost World, Jurassic Park.
Really?
Oh.
Yes.
That's when that one actually started?
That's when it started.
Huh.
Of course, the logo's CG had been upped as years and years went by, but...
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, because I've heard of Goldsmith before because, like, when you pay attention to film composition, especially if you're doing the sci-fi circles, you're gonna run into his name. Because, as great as all of the Star Trek... As great as a good amount of the Star Trek films are, they're absolutely enhanced by Goldsmith's score. Because, if I remember correctly, I think Goldsmith did the score for pretty much all of the films that comprised the original series cast of like the films that focused on the original series cast. Did he do the score for Star Trek 1? I believe that was someone else.
I believe it might have been someone else.
Yeah, because I know Goldsmith at least did the score for, 2, 3, and 4?
Yes.
Yeah.
Arguably the best scores, too.
Yeah, and arguably the best of the Star Trek films. I know some people don't like Search for Spock, but I would say of the odd-numbered Star Trek films, it is probably the best one. I mean, it's definitely got the best cast in it of the odd-numbered films, I would say. I mean, you got Christopher Lloyd, for God's sakes,
yes.
playing a Klingon.
Yeah.
Good. Just great performance on his end, by the way.
Oh, yeah, one of his more underrated performances.
So, what is Explorers about, you may ask?
Yes, because I have no idea.
Yeah.
Well, released on July 12th of 1985, the movie follows 2 young sci-fi enthusiasts. Ben Crandall, played by Ethan Hawke, who loves video games, watching sci-fi movies, and reading comic books. And he suddenly has a vision of an extraterrestrial signal whenever he dreams. And he enlists the help of his buddy Wolfgang Muller, played by River Phoenix, to make an actual functional spaceship in order to follow the signal.
That is a German name if I've ever heard one.
That it is, Wolfgang Muller. Joined by the one kid actor that nobody remembers because he's being accompanied by River Phoenix and Ethan Hawke, they take off into outer space and come into some wet-looking puppet aliens. The best-looking puppet aliens, in my opinion, because I will say it again, the effects for this movie are so great, especially for the time.
I mean, I feel like what might have overshadowed this, even though obviously it came out a couple of years after the fact, because Back to the Future first dropped in 85, 84?
85.
85. So yeah, a few years after E.T., but unfortunately children's science fiction films kind of like really fell off after E.T. came out. Like, they took a considerable dive in viewership.
And comparisons to that movie are probably going to be inevitable, just because of the aesthetic at the time.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But there's a distinct sort of blend going on here. Think if The Goonies and E.T. were put in a blender.
Yeah, because a lot of films at that time took that, like, whimsical, majestic feeling of E.T., you know? Like, people don't realize just how big of a deal that film was, I feel. You know, it's one of those films that's become so integrated to pop culture and references and in, like, just tone that it kind of isn't as, like, relevant in the forefront of, like, people's minds nowadays because of how much it changed film. You know, it's like Citizen Kane.
It's like cinematic bedrock, if you will.
Yeah. E.T. is, like, honestly, like, the Citizen Kane of live action, like, children's science fiction films.
And this is another case where, like with the Stand By Me movie, I'm coming back to this after years of having enjoyed it back in high school, which in turn was me enjoying it again after I had seen it as a wee lad.
Yeah.
Because while the box office results for this movie were not great, VHS was much, much kinder to it.
Yeah, and that happens sometimes, you know?
And it sold gangbusters on the home video market back then, and was featured in all sorts of promotions on other VHS copies of movies. I remember...
But how did it do on Betamax?
That is a good question, but I think it was on the way out.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Yeah.
So...
home video can really save the life of a lot of movies. Nowadays, I don't think people get that as much because, you know... We're in the streaming age, you know?
We're in an age where anything is accessible through one service or another.
Yeah. I mean, there's some shockingly more difficult to obtain stuff. Famously, and unfortunately, that's definitely the case I've noticed with cult television.
Yes.
Cult television is way harder to access nowadays than cult films are.
Yeah, because they were released a lot less frequently than cult films.
In particular, I've actually found out that for a while, and still a bit now, it was incredibly hard to access Bruce Campbell's cult television series, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. That actually did not receive a DVD release until like 2 years ago.
Crazy.
A DVD release.
A DVD.
There's not even a Blu-ray release of that.
See, this is why I constantly sing the praises of Shout Factory and the like.
Yeah, Shout Factory, Sentai Filmworks, a bunch of those bits.
Discotheque Media too. They'll bridge the gap. They'll get you back to that point.
And G-Kids, especially lately.
Oh, G-Kids.
In my opinion, one of the finest distribution and dubbing companies in existence right now.
I cannot wait to see what else they pick up, honestly.
Yeah, I've been meaning to check out more of their stuff. I've heard great things about Ongaku Our Sound, which people have not really been talking about, and I mean to check out. And of course, they handled the excellent distribution of the fantastic newest Lupin the Third movie, which I've heard nothing but praise about.
Oh, yeah.
And for those of you who have watched some of our previous episodes and know our love of anime, and in particular how all of us are fond for Ghibli, they are going to be the first distributor for a long time, if not perhaps ever, of Future Boy Conan.
Yes!
Because that is one of the most infamous pieces of like lost media out there.
God bless those curators.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much wild lost media out there. I mean, we've got iconic television shows out there that like literally are just like missing almost the entire series or entire gaps of their work.
Cough BBC shows.
Yeah, the BBC being the most infamous of this. Some of you might be aware or unaware. the entire first season of one of the most iconic British television shows of all time is missing.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Goodbye, the Avengers.
Yeah. Have you heard of a little show called The Avengers?
Yeah, that spy show.
Yeah.
You can...
The entire
So I just want
first
to point
season.
out...
Entire first season.
I just want to point out, you can't find the first season of that, but what you can find is that god-awful movie that had Sean Connery in it wearing a fucking teddy bear costume.
Well, say what you will, but that was handled by American companies, which are much better at just piling crap up and just like holding on to it. For a while there, the Brits basically like just scrapped whatever.
Well, the thing is, the reason why that happened is for two reasons. One, film was very, very expensive back in the day. And two, the other reason being is that when television first came out, they saw it similar to radio, where if you missed it, you missed it.
Yeah, it was disposable.
As seeing it as disposable. So, for example, there's a lot of missing episodes of Doctor Who. We're missing the first entire season of the Avengers. And another one that they had to fight in order to keep was, guess this, the Queen's coronation.
Whoa.
They almost scrapped that.
They almost scrapped the Queen's coronation. Look, guys, we need film for some new episodes of Coronation Street. We might have to scrap the Queen's
Coronation.
stuff, okay?
We might need this for EastEnders.
Yeah, it was probably something like EastEnders or Coronation
Archives back
Street.
then were warped.
Yeah, I don't know how bad it is with American records. Like, I don't know if there's a lot of older American TV shows that are, like, gone completely, but it certainly seems like a lot of, like, irrelevant, no one cares about American television is pretty freaking easy to find.
And another thing that I think there's only limited footage of Churchill's funeral.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Perhaps for some of our viewers, this will be the hardest to hear. Well, I imagine for a lot of our viewers, this will be hard to hear when they realize it. Try to look up the Beatles, Top of the Pops. Have fun. Have fun
with that.
Have fun. If you're unaware, even though you are a huge Beatles fan, buddy, I kid you not, the entirety of the Beatles, like, Top of the Pops appearances are pretty much gone.
Yeah.
The only Top of the Pops appearance of the Beatles that survived is because of Doctor Who.
Huh?
Yeah, and the serial The Chase, which was lost for a while before they found one of the earlier Doctor Who ones. It was only, the first Doctor second season that The Chase was at the very beginning of the second series. There's a bit where the Doctor is, using the computers and shows some of, to demonstrate to Susan the culture of where the current team came from, TARDIS team came from. The Doctor plays some British pop culture of the time that's popular, and it included footage of the Beatles' Top of the Pops performance that was going on around the exact same time. Mm-hmm. In fact, they almost had the Beatles on The Chase before deciding to settle on the Top of the Pops footage because the Beatles were too busy at the time.
It was busy and expensive.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Beatles actually expressed interest in appearing on Doctor Who and thought it would have been fun, but they were just too busy at the time.
Too busy. They basically ruled the world at that point.
Yeah.
So it was like the height of Beatlemania.
It's one of those things where there was so many times where we almost had some incredibly iconic British performers and icons on Doctor Who, but they were just too busy. Most famously, aside from that, we almost had
Patrick Stewart?
Yeah, Patrick Stewart was almost on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And so was David Bowie. They were both almost on Doctor Who.
Oh my god, that would have been so awesome.
But were too busy
the Starman
at the time.
on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Imagine that for a sec.
And before we get back into this, I want to remind you that Doctor Who had the easiest out ever in the mid-'80s to have celebrity guests, and they never used it somehow.
Golden
Do you want to hear this?
Wasted.
I'm gonna make you really angry. So, in 84, 85, for the majority of the 80s, Doctor Who had a showrunner who was pretty infamous in the fandom, John Nathan Turner. He had his problems, that's for sure, and he was a huge fan of stunt casting. Are you familiar with the concept of stunt casting?
Yes, I despise it.
Yes. Huge fan of it. He loved it. So that's why a lot of the 80s run for Doctor Who is not great. But he had the most golden opportunity for stunt casting built into his scripts that he ignored. In the Fifth Doctor's run, they run into a robot that joins the team named Chameleon that was a shapeshifter. Chameleon appears in approximately 2 episodes.
Yes?
In which he barely shapeshifts.
Huh.
And keep in mind, the chameleon prop itself was despised by the crew because it was an animatronic that was incredibly hard to operate and function. They had a way around not using the animatronic very much that they somehow never did. Right?
I would have loved to see a shapeshift into K9.
I'm speechless right now.
Like,
to confuse everyone.
literally, they could have just had David Bowie on in the most throwaway line ever, where Chameleon just steps out of the ship as David Bowie.
Yeah.
And been like, hey, Chameleon, why are you looking like that? I saw this was a popular form of a famous figure on Earth by watching your footage, Doctor.
Easy.
Incredibly easy way to integrate any celebrity guest you want onto your show, but you're so stupid that you literally throw the prop in early on in a season, and at the end of another season go, oh, wait, we kind of have to do something with this prop that we established lives with the Doctor and travels with him, but has only appeared in one adventure before this.
So, getting away from the concept of underutilized props.
Yes.
Because Explorers, again, has amazing effects, courtesy of Industrial Light and Magic.
Oh.
I will say
Lucas's
that...
boys.
I will say that I've always been sort of afraid of making the same mistake I did of Rock and Roll, where my own enthusiasm overshadows the flaws going in. So I'll say that Explorers is fun, imaginative, and a bit undercooked, especially towards the last third, where some of the alien stuff can be a little rushed, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a movie other than E.T. that captures the wonder that Dalton brought up.
So this film has the opposite problem from the sounds of it that, like, another cult 80s sci-fi film, children's film, The Last Starfighter had.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas The Last Starfighter had too much of the alien stuff.
Like, the alien stuff that they have is not one that I'm the biggest fan of.
Yeah.
And, yeah, because, like...
I've personally never even seen The Last Starfighter.
Yeah,
You'll see what the problems are on some of the alien stuff's end, but it's still a fun romp, and I honestly kind of wish that they utilized the kind of tone and effects that this movie does, because it's Space Goonies.
Yeah.
It's Space Stand By Me, and I hope that you find at least one thing to enjoy in this, because it's a fun time, and I think it'll evoke some nice, nostalgic levels of wonder.
All right, well, shall we get into it then?
We shall. All right, we have returned from the screening. I will open this up by saying that my memories, while fond, and my praise, well remembered for the first half, has led to some disappointment, and by some I mean considerable.
A lot in the second half.
A lot.
Yeah.
And in the interest of being balanced, I'd like to end on the positive notes, but while we are on the subject of the thing I alluded to about this movie falling flat on its face in the second half, albeit vaguely.
You downplayed it so much.
I downplayed it... Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I downplayed it because, well, I was afraid of it happening again. I was afraid of hurting you. I didn't mean to. But...
Is this turning into a therapy session? Can we get on with the episode?
You didn't hurt me, Richie. The film confused me, baffled me, and made me wonder what Yeah, no, this film botched the landing. It's like watching one of those. It's funny I brought up Doctor Who because it's like watching an '80s Doctor Who like serial that you're like, okay, yeah, cool. This starts out pretty good, and then at the end you're like, why are we here? Just to suffer?
Dalton's having an existential crisis right now.
Yeah. I may or may not just make one of the archival photos I took the thumbnail at one point. If I ever do a highlight reel of our stuff on my personal YouTube channel for all my voice stuff, I'll make that the thumbnail for your...
Yeah, that...
So for context, as I have alluded to before, this movie is about 3 kids traveling to space in a makeshift spacecraft. And the build-up to it is awesome. The payoff, on the other hand...
is god-awful.
You see...
consisting of 2 of the most annoying, creepily designed aliens.
Danger aliens.
Yes.
And the molester robot.
The molester robot.
Weirdly enough, the best of the 3 aliens.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't talk.
Yes. It doesn't talk, and it was cute with its weird flashlight eyes.
With its Teletubby arm things.
Yes.
Or like, feed it custard, it'll go away.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I cannot wait till we set up a webcam for this podcast.
Okay,
We've got to do that.
You see, sometimes in film less is more, and that's why I'm so confused, because the film really seemed to get that during the first part.
Yes.
Like, the first part's fun. If you're into, like, characters, like, tinkering around and figuring stuff out and explaining things, if you're into, like, the sci part of sci-fi. You'll probably dig this film for the first half. Once they actually get into space, just turn off the film. Treat it like a short film where the climax is they did it. They finally got to space. They got to see the stuff.
Voyage de la Lune.
That's the ending.
I should have done that, honestly.
Yeah. Because
that is my favorite part of this movie and why it's got a place
actually,
in my
no,
heart.
you know what? You can show the alien spaceship, but end with the ship opening up.
Yeah.
That's a good ending. If they had filmed a bit more of the Earth stuff to pad out the runtime, but not in the way it padded out towards the end there.
Yeah.
Or if they had changed just the aliens altogether.
Exactly, because the beginning of the movie sets it up like they're more of a extraterrestrial consciousness, you know, that they're sending out a psychic signal and they are less an alien and more a cosmic entity. Like when they're going through the circuit boards and stuff.
Yeah.
And when they're floating through.
And then when you get there and you see the robot, you're like, okay, so these are weird robotic beings. And then you meet the slime things that look like a rejected monster design from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy TV show, which didn't have great effects work and a good amount of it, which is saying something.
Yeah, because I remember when they were going to the spaceship, we were like, oh no, it's the Vogons. It's going to recite the world's worst poetry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish it was that.
I wish it was the Vogons.
I wish it was
He was writhing about. So, I'm not doing this in just at your expense, Dalton, but for context for our
It feels
viewers at
like
home,
it sometimes.
Sometimes. Maybe partially.
I don't want to hear shit about Jar Jar Binks anymore, okay, people?
Yeah.
Let me just say that. Jar Jar Binks is a lovable scamp compared to these aliens.
Hey, at least Jar Jar took out some droids.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Jar Jar did stuff.
He
took out some
He
droids.
advanced the plot.
These aliens are
He showed
meandering.
he showed us the wacky side of the Star Wars galaxy.
Like, the aliens only vaguely lean into the direction that they set in the prologue of this movie.
The film feels like the ending feels like the writers commentating on they are making a shit film now.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what's going on? Why? And that was me. I'm just like, why? What is the point?
Is it... I just want to ask for the record, though, Dalton. Is it wrong to find this amusing? On some level?
On some level, it's fine. I'm
Like
just...
seeing this.
Yes, I get that, Richie. You see, that's one of your worst traits is you keep pressing in. If you didn't keep pressing, it wouldn't be as awful. But you keep pressing and being like, are you okay? Are you okay? Yes, I am okay, Richie. The fact that I have not tried to physically harm you should tell you enough.
Also, Richie's had a shit-eating grin on his face for the past 3
Yeah,
minutes.
that really hasn't been helping things.
I'm sorry.
Look, the point is, less is sometimes more. This movie, I don't know where its budget went at certain points.
Yeah.
Clearly not into the
Everything-
CG, that's for sure.
Everything
No, we
involved,
could see the boxes.
everything
Yeah.
involving flight in this movie looks awful, which is saying something considering that the majority of the film revolves around flight in some way, shape, or form.
The aliens were boogers.
Giant sentient boogers.
And that ship design was not great.
Generic.
It was very bad.
It says something that the Thunder Road itself was probably the coolest thing.
Well, yeah, because it looks like something actually designed by children, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The spaceship kind of looked like they literally just stole a prop ship from Red Dwarf and repainted it for the exterior
There's also
shots.
also something kind of badass about the fact that the Thunder Road was a viable source of transportation.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
was fun. There's fun stuff in this, but this is like, you know those parts in a movie where you're like, all right, you can move on.
Cut.
That's the entire like ending of this film.
I
when
can
you're
only
like,
imagine Joe Dante being behind the camera, and he's just telling the people, he's like, okay, cut. Cut. Cut!
What really annoys me, yeah, I see
Yeah.
it. What really annoys me though is while that was going on, I just started looking up trivia on this film, and apparently the reason there's so much of that dumb alien bullshit is that the crew wanted to showcase Robert Picardo's comedic talent.
Let's just put that phrase in big giant air
Comedic
quotes.
talent.
Those are big giant
you know
bold air
that
quotes.
kid? You know that kid in school who thinks the essence of comedy is just saying stuff that other funnier people have said?
Oh
That's
yeah,
the
that kid's
entire ending of this
that
film.
kid is insufferable.
That's the entire ending of
the
this
movie.
film.
And that kid is also me. I am totally that kid circa grade school.
Now, what I want to ask you guys, because this is what I'm really curious about, because films are supposed to have, like,
Acts.
a point. A film is supposed to be making like a thesis statement. Any work of fiction is supposed to be making like a thesis statement.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, Portrait of Dorian Gray. Enjoy your life. Live it to its fullest. Do not get caught up on material things and stuff that is ephemeral.
Right.
Beauty never lasts, so enjoy what you have while you have it and appreciate those around you.
Yes.
What is this movie's thesis statement?
Don't be an astronaut.
Yes. I'm nodding. Hence the side. Hence the silence.
Because this film's thesis seems to be, you know, like exploration and traveling and discovering the unknown and like putting your neck out there is wonderful. But what do the kids gain from this? Nothing.
An annoying comedic act and a slightly half-decent looking necklace. That's it.
Know what the necklace looks like? It looks like someone's first attempt at doing resin crafts, and then they sell it at a craft show for like $40. When it's like, yeah, that thing costs like $3.
It looks like you know, one of those amulet props from like a fantasy film that got made in the 80s that was just like
It's like-
lying around.
No, you know what it
instead
looks
of-
like? It looks like one of those amulet props from a sci-fi film,
Yeah.
like sci-fi
No,
TV
there's-
channel.
I was gonna say, it looks like a candy, like, necklace, doesn't it?
Oh my!
Almost.
No, it looks like one of those. Once again, we're bringing it back. It looks like an amulet prop from Doctor Who,
Yeah.
from like 80s Doctor Who, where it's like, this gem will allow us to channel the psychic energy into the TARDIS.
And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never. It says a lot that that most of this podcast is going to be the first half where we're just like talking about interesting things, going to this film with an enthusiastic zeal,
and then
now
dropping.
And now this feels like when a convention ends and you had a good time at first, but now you're just tired and you want to go home.
Yeah.
You want to eat something that's not Subway or Taco Bell.
And you're stuck in traffic.
On I-95.
And your friend keeps making insufferable
I've got better candidates for this
and
show.
won't shut up, and you're like, let us enjoy the quiet. Let us contemplate in silence.
Viewers and listeners, I have way better taste than this most times, I swear.
This is 2 films you've subjected me to where I've been like, Richie, what's going on, buddy?
And I noticed a theme that we
Low
were
blood
talking
sugar.
about. Low blood sugar?
I'm sorry.
No, when we were watching the movie, I was like, I think we've noticed a theme that we need to break at some point when it comes to the podcast. Your movies are very divisive. Richie's movies are very divisive. Dalton's movies have Richie going, what the fuck is wrong with you?
In a good way, most times.
I like weird things. Okay?
And then my movie makes people cry.
Yeah.
I mean, my next movie's a lot more grim than this, so there's less chance of...
broken some themes already. Yeah. I showed Stand By Me, which everyone just had a good time with.
Stand By Me was a good time. In the Garden of Words was also one where we were gushing a bit in between picking up the shattered pieces of our hearts.
Yeah. Also, speaking of Garden of Words, I did realize this after we finished watching it and finished recording the episode. There was a bonus scene after the credits.
Oh.
That we never even noticed.
Whoops. Anyway. I mean, at least we know my next one is also going to break the themes, because this time I'm going to be the one showing the divisive movie.
Yeah. But getting a bit back to the movie, which, again...
Do we have to?
Rose-tinted glass. Sorry.
I mean... What else is there to say? Okay.
We did say we were going to end on
the acting. Is good.
Yes.
The acting was great.
I especially
child actors.
Yes.
I especially like how
although I feel like Dick Miller kind of got shoved in there. Love me some Dick Miller, but all that stuff kind of
felt like it felt like they were gonna do something with him, and then nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing happened.
Honestly, this movie would have been a lot better if it
ended with them getting into space.
And if they made that whole Dick Miller character like a Klaatu type character. Or something. Like a humanoid alien.
I don't think that would have been good. No.
Or like someone who had previously explored or something, because they had implied that with the dreams.
Yeah, I guess... you know why that Dick Miller thing was dropped? I'll tell you why.
Why?
They were like, guys, we're just making E.T. again. Crap, we are just making E.T. again. We're going to do the stuff with the government coming in to ruin everything. What do we do, guys? Aliens. What do you mean? I don't know.
Just aliens.
We'll figure it out when we get there. And they
Not
did
the movie
it.
Aliens.
And they did it.
Just aliens.
Guys, John Cleese lent me those weird alien props from that one scene in Life of Brian. We got it. We got it.
So,
I felt like Tom Servo. And
yeah, oh yeah, he did that whole thing. Thankfully, he only did it once, but
acting was good.
Acting was good.
Yeah.
The build-up and the flying scenes in the ship, at least, were good.
This movie should have developed its subplots more. It focused a little too heavily on the science fiction stuff. Like, we didn't get to know the kids that well.
No,
like,
we didn't.
why, for instance, Ethan Hawke's character was just admiring his neighbor from afar.
Like, what does he like about her besides
She's
pretty? They keep establishing and building up stuff with what's the one kid's name? Darren,
yeah.
Darren,
they keep
about like his family life and that kind
but
of
we
thing,
never see any of it.
We
never see any of it.
All we know is his dog eats chewing gum.
Yeah, well, that wasn't his dog.
It was a junkyard dog.
It was some dude's junkyard dog.
Yeah,
That's a cute dog.
Yeah,
Good boy.
and I find it really weird that we barely get to see Ethan Hawke's like home life too.
Yeah, we get to see his mom
In one scene.
His mom
one
was nice.
scene.
Yeah,
I mean,
she
his
was,
mom was
nice.
Because she was very supportive, and she's like, because he was like, would you be mad if I became an astronaut? And she's like, no, I love you. And we're like, okay, yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
mom in an 80s movie.
Nice,
Very supportive of him wanting to be an astronaut.
nice subversion of the whole.
But also that scene where I had one question, which is like, okay, what's the deal with the grandma? Because the mom made a weird face when he said like he was writing a letter to grandma.
It's probably one of those noodle incident type deals, you know?
Yeah,
Probably.
but like that was still kind of weird. That the only person whose like home life we get to see extensively
Is Wolfgang's.
Is
And
Wolfgang's.
and that his parents are German, his dad's a scientist, and they have too many fucking kids.
Yeah, like it makes you realize why he gets bullied, because he probably has cheap clothing because his parents have so many fucking kids.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like these. It's funny you mentioned Doctor Who so many times because he had one of those like long coats too,
Yeah,
somewhere between a trench coat and a lab coat.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
a really uncool version of David Tennant's coat. And like he has pants that I assume are made of paper mache.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I'm
because
sorry, they tore way too easily in that scene. The kid like does like this, and it's just like
just pulls on like the pant leg. It's like
what are those pants, loser? And she's like,
and just rips in half.
because he didn't even like tug on it hard. It was just like,
It's like the tearaway clothing in that episode of Community.
yeah,
Well, we know the budget didn't go into the pants.
where the joke was that it was tearaway clothing, and tearaway clothing is very expensive.
Yeah.
That is still one of my all-time favorite sitcom jokes ever, because it brings into the idea of the fact that like some of the wacky shenanigans in sitcoms would cost a fair bit of money.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, like that's one of my favorite things in sitcoms, where they're like, wow, this is ludicrously stupid and expensive. Yeah. I gotta be honest. I gotta start being honest, because I'm spending way too much money on tearaway clothing.
Yeah. So, getting back to the main point of this, I promise both Dalton and those listening that I have been trying to not make a pattern out of this.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Because, like, I can enjoy
As you said, rose-tinted glasses, you know?
rose-tinted glasses. The fact that I hadn't seen this movie in about 10 years, I just remember enjoying it and being kind of annoyed and
I'm just so confused
by the aliens.
Not only that, but like they're like, well, it was to showcase Robert Picardo's comedic talent. And he was funnier earlier in the movie with that shit where like they made a fake cheap sci-fi film that they show in the movie. And that stuff's funny.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Because it was a movie within a movie.
And it's so like on the nose that you're like, oh, that's cute. That's cute.
It's on the nose, and the stuff they do where
With
they're talking about
showing the shots and how some of the scenes in the film match up with what's going on in the movie itself. That's clever.
And then
That's
you have
cute.
that couple
Yeah,
who the
stuff
guy's
with the
like,
drive-through. Oh yeah, that's a moving mat.
yeah, it's a traveling mat.
Yeah.
And it almost feels meta in a charming way there,
Yes.
whereas the later scenes where they're questioning stuff feels meta in a kind of
Like the writers
desperate.
are in pain.
It's like a desperate sort of thing.
Like, guys, what do we do? How do we end this, guys? What's going on? Please. Like, I hate to compare this to E.T., but that's the focal point. That's
the core.
That's the core. E.T. is what made aliens charming and likable, and made the whole. It changed the direction of sci-fi films for years. Like, it's been rumored that part of the reason why they stopped making the alien films for a while is because people weren't scared of aliens anymore because of E.T. E.T. made people go, oh, aliens,
Cute alien.
that would be fun. And this film, I think, actually destroyed that idea better than anything.
If ever you needed to be scared of aliens again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
creepy
scarier
molester
than
aliens.
Alien.
Yeah. For context, the one female alien is a little too touchy-feely and
Yeah.
not in
Like
a very
12-year-old
endearing...
boy.
Yeah.
and not in an endearing way.
Is every character in this movie a creepy sex pervert?
Let's see. Ethan Hawke, one of the aliens.
Yep, Wolfgang,
Oh yeah.
because he wants to bang that incredibly disgusting alien.
He's like, I have a girlfriend now.
And it's just like, no.
No, you don't.
And even the other
Oh.
one, and even Darren's first suggestion for the spaceship is, oh, we can look at the girls' locker room with this. And it's like, what?
You're
There's
12.
hormonal, and then there's
Gross.
Yeah.
yes.
This is like if every character in Animal House was John Belushi. In a bad way. Like, you know those scenes in Animal House that are just like, oh god, this really is not aged well.
Yeah, like okay, they took it too far.
Yeah.
It's like that, but in space.
Yeah.
Although, getting back a bit to the acting, I'm kind of surprised that Jason Presson didn't do at least more movies.
After the early 90s. Yeah, it's kind of surprising. He had talent and charisma.
Yeah. He had that kind of deadpan asshole kind of charisma
Yeah.
that
He's that one friend you like to have around because they ground you a bit.
case in point.
Yeah. That's what he felt like. That one friend you have who's kind of a dick, but he never takes it too far. And,
Yeah.
You know, it's like he keeps you grounded. He
Kid-
keeps you in your place, you know?
Case in point, Kiki.
Yeah. And it's like, I get why they hang out with him. I get why everyone hangs out with each other. I don't get, like, they need to develop stuff with, like, the love interest girl more.
The love interest. She was just pure function.
Yeah.
She was there.
She was a prop.
She was a prop.
She was a
Yeah.
prop. And that's probably one of the biggest things.
That's the biggest problem with that.
The biggest failings of this movie is it focuses too much on the science stuff and doesn't have enough room for character stuff.
Character development.
Yeah.
There was
Anything else?
yeah, like none of the characters grow or evolve over the course of this film.
Except for arguably Darren, because he learns to
Appreciate science stuff.
appreciate science stuff and also kind of trust people.
Open up to people.
Like he eventually does like get to a point where he's like, you know what, these two aren't so bad. They're nuts.
But literally his character development is like finished within like 20 minutes of him being introduced, and that's it.
Yeah.
There needed to be a bit more growth and building. I think
way less of the gross aliens.
Yeah.
Way
If
less gross
this entire film was focused around just the building of the spaceship, trying to hide it from the parents, work on this blossoming friendship and trying to strengthen their bonds. You know, if there was a bit more scenes with just shenanigans, like on Earth.
Or hell, even more scenes of them trying to reaffirm their determination. There needed to be more moments of doubt, like, why are we doing this?
There needed to be more scenes outside of those initial ones of them trying to, like, refine their stuff a bit. You know, like,
Yeah.
hey
Yes.
guys, this didn't work. What if we tried this? Because that was, like, the most interesting stuff in the film.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Yes. And I guess the thesis statement I'm going to make with having shown this movie to both of you and having completely failed to prepare you for the second half is that I'm not sure how much people will agree with me, but I'd honestly rather see a movie that started out awesome and failed than one that was 100% pain. Like if this were 100% the Star Wars holiday special like you mentioned,
Yeah.
We could have turned the TV off, left the room, and then go back to record 15 minutes later and just be like, okay, yeah, bye,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
bye.
but, I mean, I don't think that's a controversial statement, to be honest.
yeah, like, and I wanted to, I guess I was just like hoping you would see where I was coming from with that mindset.
I mean, in a way, Richie, you have given us some interesting stuff where, you know, it's films where we can take a critical lens and analyze what
worked and what didn't.
doesn't. I will say, however, let's end on the good stuff. Jerry Goldsmith's score is really good in this.
I
yeah.
especially like...
It's easily the best part about this. It probably is just unused Star Trek music, but it works.
I especially like how they worked in synths in a subtle way.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, mixing in synths with like acoustic instruments.
And
80s
orchestral
movies-
stuff. It's good.
Orchestral.
It's good.
80s movies like that kind of lean too heavy on the synths. Even in movies like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which I like the music for that movie, but it felt like they just sort of had a Casio there and were using it because it existed. But here, they only work in the more synthy, poppy stuff when they're diving into the radio signals or when they're flying.
But man, this movie's humor is bad.
It's
so bad. It's the essence of haha,
Pop
loud,
culture reference.
loud, annoying things are funny.
Yeah. Like, the humor's at its best when it's being laid back and it's focusing on the interactions of the three kids. When it wants to be a big, bouncy sci-fi movie...
It feels like the worst Eddie Murphy comedies. The ones where you're just like, shut up, Eddie. Eddie, shut up. Eddie, shut up. Eddie, you're still going, Eddie.
Like, my heart kind of broke when you had looked at me and said, this is just the basis of what Pluto Nash became.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh... That hurts, but you're right. That hurts so bad, but you're right.
On another good note, can we talk about the fact how it's great that Eddie Murphy is finally making good stuff again?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen
Dolomite?
Dolomite is My Name?
Yes. It is so good.
It's a shame
Actually,
we can't cover that.
You know what? That's going to be my takeaway for this episode. Go watch Dolomite is My Name. It's on Netflix. It's very good. It's
Great.
very fun.
Great biopic.
Really funny.
Hilarious.
One of the best biopics I've seen in years. To be
Heartwarming too, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because Rudy Ray Moore was one of those guys who
build up a community. You know?
he built up a community, and he had it set in his mind that he didn't care how ridiculous people thought he was.
As long as they were having fun.
As long as they were having fun, and he did what he wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
fuck the big corporate system. He was going to do things his way.
And he
did.
cemented himself.
He did. He cemented himself. He is a cultural touchstone for that era of blaxploitation comedy.
And hip hop kind of owes a lot to his
stand-up.
To his stand-up routines, to his cadence, and his persona.
Yeah.
Of just sort of turning, you know,
I'm gonna be mad.
That stuff.
I'm gonna be mad. Yeah, and I gotta say, it's a crying shame that more black comedians have not credited him for being like a touchstone for comedy.
Right?
Right? Because like
Dave Chappelle probably owes so much to Rudy Ray Moore.
Fucking Richard Pryor, come on.
Richard Pryor.
Like,
oh yeah.
Also, oh, you know what? You know what's a fun comedy I feel like we could probably cover on here, because I do not believe Aaron's seen it. That's
what?
Pretty underrated.
What?
Have you seen See No Evil, Hear No Evil?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Good candidate.
Oh, Richard Pryor, Gene
Okay.
Wilder.
Okay.
They're blind and deaf. One's blind, one's deaf.
Deaf. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the film.
Okay.
Gene Wilder is the deaf one. Richard Pryor is
the blind
one.
And not only that, but they get framed for a crime.
It's a lot of fun.
It's very fun.
Like, it's dumb, but it's a fun kind of dumb. And those two are... I mean, it's Gene Wilder
It's
and
Gene
Richard
Wilder
Pryor.
and Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
They worked so well together. There's a reason that they were in several films together.
Those are two people who I know for a fact
They're both
could...
comedy legends.
Yeah.
They could
Richard
make
Pryor is a comedy legend, and Gene Wilder. It's Gene Wilder.
They could make the phone book funny.
Yeah, and not only that, but like, it's the only reason that they didn't make more films together is that Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor worked great together, but they did not get along well.
Yeah.
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 It's a clash of personalities type thing, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Richard Pryor's a very loud... He was his stage persona. He
was loud. He was abrasive.
Confrontational.
Gene Wilder is more of a...
Soft. well-spoken man who just tried to like
I'm-
play things down, you know.
I think
and
I'm
just
gonna.
the comedic pauses that he would do that just would make things. Look at Young Frankenstein, or like any movie Gene Wilder did,
Or
where he would
even,
just take
yeah.
a pause and it would just make it even funnier.
Or even just look at his scenes in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He
Oh,
was
yeah.
so good at and Willy Wonka. Sorry, he was so good at just like doing deadpan in that film.
Mm-hmm.
Deadpan and manic.
Yeah,
Like when he got to the screaming parts of the paraphernalia
Yeah.
tunnel.
The screaming was unscripted.
nothing will ever be as funny to me as "Stop, wait, no, come back."
One of the best deadpan lines
Yeah.
ever. And seeing as how we're on the
The usual time card area for where we tend to end these.
yeah, I was
don't
gonna
have much
say
else to say. Jerry Goldsmith, what a legend!
Fantastic score.
Love his
fantastic
scores.
score.
If you're gonna do anything from this movie, see if you can find the score online and listen to it just to appreciate it.
Yeah.
Listen to the score. Do what Dalton said and watch the.
End the movie when they get to space and see the spaceship. Not like don't even let them get in the ship.
I might just make an edit of this movie where it
Right?
sort of.
Where it's a short film.
It's like it's a fade to white into the
Yeah.
credits.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do enjoy the opening of that much because thankfully that's 60% of the movie, but
Yeah.
that 40%.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like the ending kind of ruins a lot of the rest of the product.
Yeah.
It's like
it's like when you eat a really good meal and at like a nice restaurant, and then the dessert is terrible, and all you remember is the dessert.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, and I'm sorry, you know what? We're gonna end it on a note to take a bit of flame off Richie. For me, it's like the ending to Saul. That ending is
It is.
garbage, and
It
anyone
is.
who thinks that ending is good doesn't know what a good film ending is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was the guy on the floor.
Okay, how did he not breathe that entire time?
I don't care.
How was he able to stay still that entire time?
I don't care if he's the son of Harry Houdini. There's no way he could have done that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, I can suspend my disbelief for a lot of things, but this movie tries so hard to be...
I'm going to take it
Yeah.
one step even further. The only reason the Saw movies got any traction was because of the amazing performance
Of Tobin Bell?
of Tobin Bell. That's the only reason those movies were any good.
Damn.
If Tobin Bell was not involved in those films, they would have been forgotten, and they never would have become a franchise.
And don't watch Spiral. That movie was terrible.
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
We saw it in theaters thinking it would be a fun romp of gore, and it just ended up being garbage.
How do you get McMurray from Letterkenny
Kenny.
and immediately kill him?
Yeah.
They could have done some fun he would have been way more funny than Chris Rock would have.
Chris Rock, I can't tell if he was trying to be funny or not.
Yeah, that's the worst part.
I mean,
That's how bad Spiral was. You couldn't tell if Chris Rock was trying to be funny or not the entire movie.
it makes sense that he was as monotonous as he was, considering he doesn't think that voice acting is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to Chris Rock? He used to be fun.
What indeed?
Have you seen Everybody Hates Chris? That's an underrated show.
Yeah,
It was
It's
an underrated
very
show.
funny.
it's really funny, and I remember watching...
Heartwarming and
Yeah.
like charming.
It's kind of like a modern age, like, Good Times, you know?
It was the Black Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah,
It was.
it was.
It was. You know that one kid who's put upon who lives with a family that's way too hard on him,
But still
but they
loves
still
him.
stick together through thick and thin. You know.
And his narration bits were funny, too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That show was one of the best underrated comedy shows of that block of that era. Because let's face it, mid 2000s TV comedies were not great.
Nope.
No.
I mean,
There's a few diamonds in the rough, but that's really it.
yeah.
It's like a...
It's like nowadays where most like sitcoms are not great. There's a few diamonds in the rough, you know.
Seems to be a consistent trend nowadays.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to a nice ending note,
Yep.
however, Dalton, thank you for at least allowing me to showcase the best parts and enduring the worst parts with me. I
Yep.
appreciate that. I'm gonna not just torture you for jollies from here on out.
You want to plug any of your stuff?
Yep, YouTube channel, Richard Eckert. Come there for comic dubs coming soon with me and some of the hosts of this show. Well, one of them sitting right next to me here. And also other projects which I'd rather let speak for themselves when they come out. Dalton?
YouTube channel, Sick Jacket Man. Have content coming there soon. Don't expect a very consistent theme for my channel. I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk to. It's not a video game channel. It's not a movie channel. It's not a book channel. I'm going to do what I want because I'll get bored otherwise, but I've got some interesting stuff planned.
He's a Renaissance man.
I'll keep it on the low key. First thing might be something talking about the weird adaptations of I was thinking my first thing might actually be about the weird adaptations of Osamu Dazai's No Longer Human and how hard they are to locate for people outside Japan.
Aaron?
And I am Aaron. I am from witchandcrafts.com. We do have some big projects planning coming in the future. We have some craft shows coming up, and we have some surprises. Check back on our Facebook page and Instagram, and you'll see what happens.
Oh, don't you guys have a TikTok as well?
We do have a TikTok now. Yeah, it's just Witch and Crafts on TikTok.
All right, and I guess just to close out,
Tune in a couple of weeks because we have some stuff going on.
Well, hold on. Let me do it. I'm gonna play this up. I'm gonna do my my theatrical stuff.
Oh, go ahead.
The light is starting to fade out. It's getting darker earlier and earlier. The leaves are falling from the trees. There's a crunch on the ground. Cold wind is starting to blow. It's the time of season when horror comes out. Join us in October, where we will be covering nothing but underrated horror films and gems that we wish to showcase to you. And bringing it back to me again, your lovely host, along with my other lovely hosts. Join us next time for the master, John Carpenter, and his film, In the Mouth of Madness.